Good evening, brothers. Good evening, sisters, and everybody who can hear my voice at this point. My name is Vumani Nkomombini, and I will be your host for tonight on, again, an ever so amazing and ever so spectacular topic, as we always do. But Gogo, are we live?
Vumani?
Are we live?
Give me 5 seconds.
Okay. I was wondering now because I saw live and then I thought we'd already started. Cool. Good evening to our brothers and sisters, and good evening to everybody who can, at this point in time, hear my voice. I greet you all in the wonderful name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Today's topic is yet another spectacular topic, which we are going to talk about, and I'm going to introduce shortly. First of all, before anything, I just want to welcome all of you guys at this point in time and say, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, Siti Magwande Kukanye, welcome and welcome. For those of you who are not joining us for the first time, we say thank you, and thank you. Before we start this conversation, I would first like to introduce myself. My name is Vumani Nkomombini, and I will be the host for tonight's conversation. But before we do anything, I would like us to bow our heads in prayer and open this session in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you for this time that you've actually given us. Not that we've done anything better, oh Lord, and not that we deserve the grace that you've granted us for us to see yet another day, but because your grace and mercy that surpasses all understanding saw us through. As we are about to engage in this particular conversation, oh Lord, may you give us the strength and the might to engage in this conversation. May you give us the courage to talk about this particular conversation. And may you also give us the words in which we can address this conversation, words that will be acceptable to your glory. And may this particular conversation touch those lives and those hearts that it is meant to touch, even if it is one soul. We would be ever so grateful for that. For even one person into your kingdom, I think we would have succeeded. We ask this in the wonderful name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Right. Today's topic is a conversation on toxic parenting methods. It is a conversation that is needed or that we need to have, given the fact that our young people are ever often so faced with mental disorders associated sometimes, or that can be attributed to the parenting methods that our parents actually use to parent our young people. And so it is a very important conversation to have, and it is a very important conversation to address for us to avoid those situations whereby people end up going into a deep, dark hole because of the way and the methods that our parents actually employ, sometimes oblivious of the fact that they are actually toxic, but they are, or they do actually create toxic environments. And today, this conversation will be led by Sis Londega, and also our Sitwarelo, who will be leading us in this particular conversation. Sis Londega, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm also well, thank you. Just before I come back to you, Siswam, I would like to remind all the participants in the Zoom platform to kindly mute their microphones and mute or switch off their cameras, and only my camera and microphone, as well as Sis Londeka and Sis Twarelo's cameras and microphones, may remain switched on and unmuted. This is to prevent any disruptions while our speakers are actually speaking. Great. Sis Londeka, how are you? I'm sorry for asking you this question again.
It wasn't even me that answered. There's another Londega in this platform right now. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I was also as confused because I could see you were not moving, and I could see that you were so shocked. But that's certainly fine. I would like to ask you to introduce the topic to us. What exactly do we mean when we talk of toxic parenting methods? What are we talking about when we delve into that topic?
So let me, firstly, I would like to greet everyone in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Firstly, I'd just like to put a disclaimer, just a small disclaimer. When I received the topic, I struggled to contextualize it because firstly, I not accept and also, young as I am, I'm still also just grappling with being a daughter in a household and having to deal with my parents as well. So these are just my views based on the research that I did for the topic, through studies that I've also done, and just generally life experiences as we grow up with parents, and through experiences with friends, and through the work that I did, because at some point in life I was working with an NGO that was dealing with some things that touched on the topic. So that's just a small disclaimer. I am in any way a professional on the topic, but basically where we had to do what we can to be able to participate. I think firstly we need to define what toxic parenting is, and to look at where to, like, before we move forward, because when I did my research, I saw that it's difficult to say there is one definition for toxic parenting. The word toxic has many definitions. I mean, it depends on the context that you use it. So there's toxic work environments, toxic relationship, toxic friendship. So for the purpose of this topic, I looked up what toxic parenting is. And one of the scholars in psychology, Dr. Alice Klein, defined toxic parenting as someone that is concerned with their own needs, and they are not mindful of how their actions actually affect their child. They are most likely not willing to apologize if there are any issues that they have with their child, nor are they willing to admit that they've done anything wrong to their child. the abuse is not a once-off thing. It's not an isolated incident whereby it's something that happened today and now your parent is toxic. It's an ongoing thing that you grow up with. It's more like a habit of theirs that I think most parents are not aware of the way that they treat you. So it can start as early as 5 or as early as when you are born, but then you start noticing it as you grow up and as you see and as you are exposed to different environments that you now start to question, okay, no, this one is what my parent is doing is not normal, or you now start to see that what they are doing actually has negative effects on you. It's things maybe when you start being a teenager, you notice certain behaviors that your parents have towards you, and you see those things. The upheaval and the commotion that we experience nowadays can actually be attributed to toxic parenting, because there's a saying that says, hurt people hurt people. So toxic parents, when your parent is toxic towards you, it also affects you as a person and how you view your environment and how you view the world. IsiZulu kune saying ethi zibanja zisemaphupho. So basically what it means, the sooner you are able to identify that this is a toxic environment, the sooner you identify that you are dealing with a toxic parent, is when you are able to now see those characteristics with your parent, and are able to deal with that. Also, one thing is that toxic parenting upsurge, they lead to a toxic society, and it leads to a society that is struggling with drugs, crime, alcohol, and all those things, because people are now trying to find coping mechanisms because of the environments that they are dealing with at home. You know, you ask yourself, why is this person always out? You know, why is this person not happy with their parents? Why is this person doing ABC? And the first thing that we want to assume is that there's something wrong with them as a child, instead of also thinking that their behavior can be attributed to how their parents treat them. So I think one of the challenges that we have is that as the Black community, this is such a sensitive topic. I think it's very important that we note that this is such a sensitive topic, in the sense that, you know, we grow up in environments whereby you are not allowed to question your parents. Their words are final. And, you know, so having to discuss such a topic and to actually admit the fact that, no, I'm growing up in an environment with a toxic parent is such a taboo thing to say, because you won't feel comfortable telling anyone else, because people will question you, and people will think, actually, no, there's something wrong with you, instead of there's something wrong with your parents, because our parents are never wrong. So I think that's where we first define what toxic parenting is.
Thank you, Sis Londeka. We hear your standpoint or your introduction at this point, that it is a very difficult topic, particularly for people of color, specifically Black people, to address this particular topic, because what your parents say are deemed to be yes and amen, and you can't really dispute what they are saying. So I will come back to you with a question a little bit later. I just want to chat a little bit with Australia. Australia, how are you?
I'm good, and you, my brother?
I'm well, thanks. Do you have any introductory remarks that you want to give on the topic?
All right. Thank you, my brother. I think so far, Uses Londega said a mouthful, but I would like to add on before we start with the when we get more into detail. she's right. This topic, it may be very sensitive to others, and it can also trigger with some people's emotions, because at this stage, when looking at this pandemic, I also have this fear that we are going to face a generation that has more offense, because at the current stage, when we check with the pandemic, most of the kids are losing parents. So meaning this emotional thing is getting worse and worse, without even indicating those common behavioral patterns that Sister Londega did mention, like those toxic one. But looking forward, we are facing a generation that needs more healing, especially on the mental health, and they are more depressed, because if we cannot control that part, we are going to lose that dignity of being parents. Because at this stage, when I check, like, this thing of toxic parenting, it did not start as in today or when. It started from generation to generation. But looking at the changes now, we are living in a changing environment, changing situation, and now we cannot compare the previous generation with the current generation. But we need to deal with the situation according to the current situation. In my highlight, maybe I could quickly summarize what Sister Londega said about the introduction. Like, maybe when we describe a toxic parent, we can talk about a common behavioral pattern that is done to children. Firstly, I can say calling them names and insulting them, or constantly criticizing whatever they do, using physical pain to discipline them. But currently, I know according to our law, it's also not allowed. Even in the schools, it's also not allowed when we do the physical harm on kids. But it still happens in the private spaces. We cannot deny that one. Getting drunk or using drugs in front of the kids. Another one, depressed and emotionally unavailable parents. Some of the children at this moment, they've been turned into being adults because a child is taking care of a parent, not because a child can do that, but a child doesn't have a choice. Being afraid to express anger towards parents, as she mentioned, that especially to us, like, sometimes it's a taboo to express your feeling to the adult. So on that note, my brother, I can say, before we get much further, this is the introduction that we have. On my side, I will also disclaim, I'm not a profession in this one, but I'm working with the people that are in need of help, especially on the school-based support team called the SBST in the schools, where I need to engage with the parents, the kids, and the district officials dealing with behavioral problems, academics, and other things, where we need to use the program of SEAS called screening, identifying and assessing learners in order to support them under certain conditions that they may encounter, especially under toxic parenting or under situation that they encounter at home that may affect their upbringing. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Australia, and we cannot run away that this particular topic, there will be certain areas whereby there will be an overlap in a lot of things that you and Sis Londega will say for the duration of the program, because of the nature of the conversation itself.
Yeah.
Sis Londega, I want to come back to you. You earlier in your introduction made a point on a saying that hurt people hurt people. And then you continued to say that the sooner that someone identifies the toxicity in their parents, the quicker they can try to fix it or try to deal with it. And I almost want to ask a question in terms of, in your personal opinion. Now, I also want to make a disclaimer there on your behalf that this is not something that is cast in stone, and this is completely on your personal opinion. What do you think are the characteristics or the traits of a toxic parent?
I looked it up. I actually looked that up. There is so many factors that or characteristic of a toxic parent, but I highlighted just a few that I thought would be the most common ones or the easier ones to spot. Firstly, the first one would be self-centered behavior. So basically, this means that your parent bases all the decision around themselves and their happiness. So they don't take into account what you have to say about any of the things that you want in your life. They are consumed about what they are trying to achieve through you. Like, for example, parents who live their dreams through their child. So, now they didn't get a chance to go to university to be a lawyer. So now they expect you to do that for them. So, if someone is self-centered to a point where they are not able to listen to you and to listen to your grievances and to take into account what you have to say to them, it's always about what they are trying to achieve as a parent through you, what they want to see happen. And even like examples like when you are depressed, and you tell them, no, I'm actually, let's say you have the guts to tell them I'm going through depression, and they will say to you, you need depression, depressed because I buy you clothes, there's groceries in the fridge, so they make your depression about them instead of listening to what you have to say about that. Secondly, it's physical and verbal abuse. Like Usistarelo has said, luckily for us, physical abuse is not allowed, but we know that it happens in homes. But one thing is that they don't care how small the thing may be, but because that's their mentality, they believe it doesn't matter what you did. They are not willing to sit down and have a conversation with you and explain to you what you did was wrong. I mean, those things start as early as 6 years old. I mean, you can't just beat down a 6-year-old. I mean, they won't understand. Now you grow up fearing your parents, not because you don't want to speak to them or you can't speak to them, but because they put the fear of God in you by using physical abuse. They use physical abuse as a punitive tool to reprimand you. And with verbal abuse, it actually can be very bad. I think it's worse than physical abuse because verbal abuse actually stays with you longer. So it can be more damaging, and that one leads to all these mental issues now that we are having as the sad generation. And we are sad because we are facing all these things because of the things that parents say to us. You do something wrong, and instead of sitting down with you, they will tell you, yeah, it's because Velu Babuako did ABC. It's because that's why you're failing at school. That's why you will never amount to anything. Those kind of things that stay with you and they beat on your self-esteem. And then you also start believing those things that I will not amount to anything. Because I mean, imagine when you are in an environment whereby whenever you make one small mistake, your parents curses you. and even they could go to even saying, I curse the day I gave birth to you, I wish I never gave birth to you, those kind of things. The verbal abuse is actually one thing that parents are not aware of, and is something that is so damaging to us. Thirdly, it's controlling behaviors. So they don't want to listen. They just want to control you. I need you to do this. You must do this at this time. You must do this at that time. Yes, as parents, you need to have rules, and there has to be some kind of control, but there has to be, at some point, you must be able to let go, allow your child to be able to be a child in the home, so that you don't have an issue of, the one time they get a chance, he's out drinking and then they pass out, and because now you have been so controlling, and you are not allowing them to grow into themselves. So when a parent controls you, they will tell you, this is what you need to study. I need you to be a doctor, so you must do physics and maths. I need you to be an accountant, so you must do accounting. So you don't grow into your own personality. You don't even know whether you like medicine or not. You don't even know whether you like sports, whether you like arts, because your parents is so controlling and overbearing. They don't guide you, they control you. So there's a big difference with that, is that they need to be able to guide you instead of controlling you. Yes, you are the parents, but being a parent does not mean you must control, you must guide. That is the difference. And lastly, lack of boundaries. This one is a two-sided knife, if I can say that, in the sense that if you open your boundaries too much, then your child loses discipline, right? They won't listen to you because you just let them be. But also, if you close those boundaries, then you are creating a rebel, someone that will go against each and every rule that you set out for them. So you create a child that is found wanting. So whatever they do, they just want to prove a point that, oh, you said I can't drink. Okay, let me go drink and see what happens if I drink. Not because they want to, they won't, maybe they aren't even interested in alcohol, but because of those boundaries that you've created and not being able to let go, now they are just always trying to rebel against the rules that you've set out. I think those are the ones. Also, lastly, I think one important one is that favoritism within siblings. Also, that is also one that is affected a lot. Why ungafani nosbanibani? Usbanibani, I mean, we are siblings. I mean, my sister, I will make an example with my sister and I. Ulondiwe is my twin, but we are so far apart in terms of personality and the things that we like. I mean, even it's at school, we didn't do the same subjects. Yes, we went to the same school, we went to the same varsity, but in terms of the streams that we took, I mean, she's in finance, and I'm not in finance. So the comparison would be, oh, this one is a doctor, so they like that one, that's a doctor, and that one gets preferential treatment. And then the one that's not a doctor, they don't listen. So those kind of things also create a toxic environment amongst siblings.
Thank you, Sis Londeka, for your detailed explanation in terms of the traits and the characteristics, so as to speak of a toxic parent. I want to pose a further question to you based on now all of this that you've just now said, what the characteristics are in terms of things like parent wanting to project the things that they wanted when they were growing up, and they want to project those on you. For example, if Umamam wanted to be a lawyer, now I must also be a lawyer because she never got that opportunity to be a lawyer. Many other examples, but specifically on that one, do you not think, in again your personal opinion, that it is something that comes from or something that has happened to the parent before, do you not think that the things that makes the parents to be toxic are things that have likely happened to them in the past, and they deemed them to be right because somebody did, or because someone projected a career to them, or because someone, for example, was verbally abusive to them in the past? Do you not think that that could likely be one of the reasons why they would deem what they do to be correct and to be 100% right?
It's basically a manifestation of their upbringing, So what I mean by that is that parents need to understand that a child growing up in 2021 is different from when they grew up in 1974. The environments are not the same at this point, because now, back then, they were not exposed to as much information as we are exposed to now. So, for example, back then, being a teacher, being a policeman, being a doctor was the norm, right? So it was natural for you to aspire to be those things. But now, as young people, we are very privileged, if I must say that, because we have access to so many information. We have access to so much information in the internet, and that is why now, maybe that is why it is now so easy for us to say our parents are toxic, because they did not see that as toxic behavior, because they did not have access to the kind of information that we have. So now, with the kind of information that we have, it's not that we are trying to make them bad people, but it's just that we are adjusting and they are failing to adjust. They are failing to adapt to the changes that are happening, So it's a thing of, it's okay if you think being a doctor is something that I should aspire to be, but you must also be able to open to the fact that I may not want to be a doctor. Communication and transformation for them is something that they don't know. Because one thing that the difference between us and our parents is that they did not communicate with their parents. Your father says something and their word is set in stone. Your mother says something and their word is set in stone. So it is our responsibility to improve the communication and try and transform our parents to say, listen, I understand that this is how you grew up and this is what you wish for me, but please understand that the environment that I'm in right now, there are many things that are happening, and I have formed my own opinions, and I would like for you to listen, because the first step in breaking the cycle of toxic parents is being able to communicate with them and to tell them, no, this I do not like, this I think we need to look at.
Great, Siswam. Thank you for your response. It is indeed something that is definitely true, that whatever that our parents do, it is a manifestation of their own lives, and I think it ties back to what you said earlier, that hurt people do actually hurt people. Now, my follow-up question is based on now what you just said, and I want to pose this question to our Swarelo, that Usus Londeka and you as well mentioned earlier, if I quote what you said earlier correctly, is that toxic parenting, or some forms of toxicity, is that parents are constantly criticizing their children, and they use physical abuse, or they get intoxicated in front of their kids. And also another one is that the parent is depressed. So at the very start of the conversation, we had already cleared the ground in terms of specifically in the Black community, not to actually segregate in color. That's what we're trying to do here. But because we are versed with that platform, and I actually want to highlight that, because we are versed with the Black culture, it's very easy for us to talk about what happens there. And we said when we started that there's an issue, or there's a problem in the Black community, specifically that hinges on the communication part, that we are sometimes unlikely or we are unable to speak up to our parents. Otherwise, we are deemed as abantu abadelelayo. We are deemed as abantu who abangabahloniphiyo abantu abadala, and it gets to that point. Now, what advice would you give to someone who actually has noticed that their parent is actually toxic, and they now want to speak up, or they now want to speak out about the toxicity? What advice would you give to that person? How would you advise them to even start having the particular conversation? And if all else fails, what do I do?
All right, thank you, my brother. With the advice, I thought maybe I will share the story first before the advice, so that it can click into people's mind what really happens, because there's this part that is more crucial, the negligence. You know, when coming to negligence, it doesn't matter whether your parents are rich or your parents are poor. I wanted to share a story so before I can give an advice on how to deal with this part. I think maybe it can give a clear indication on what is really happening here. And unless if you don't allow me to do that, my brother, because I think this story is more important before we can go deeper into the advice. I do have the advice with me, but I need to share. I think sharing this story will give more clarity on what is really happening.
By all means.
Can I share the story? Yeah.
By all means.
The story. Okay. The story it was taken from the chat line. It's about negligence. The story is about Steve. I'll be quoting as Steve so that it can be clear. All right. Can I start, my brother? All right. As I quote, Steve's home became unsafe when his mom started dealing with drugs and disappearing for days at a time. So when Steve called it, he said, my home life got increasingly worse from the age of about 8 years old, when my mom's drug dealer partner, meaning the boyfriend, moved in with them during that time when he was still 8 years old. Drugs took over family life. My brother and I were always locked in our bedroom as soon as we got home from school, and then let out to go to school in the morning. So meaning from school straight to the bedroom, from bedroom straight to school. Sometimes we didn't see mom for days at a time. We made our own breakfast and we were given takeaway for dinner all the time in our bedrooms. I could hear the drug dealing going on, meaning in the apartment, there was a dealing of drugs in that apartment, but they did not allow the kids to see everything. They could only hear what is really happening. So there was a constant stream of people dealing drugs at all the hours in that flat, and some of them were pretty scary. So much that mom and her boyfriend just wanted us out of the way. The flat was regularly raided by police. Sometimes in the middle of the night, they would bang down the door, yelling and ordering us around. That was really rough. So money wasn't a problem. I quote that we must highlight this part. Money wasn't a problem. I had new clothes, plenty of toys, computers, but no mom in my life. She only thought about drugs, and her boyfriend was very controlling. I didn't really have any parenting. Once a teacher dropped me home and mom told me not to let anyone come around, or my brother and I will be taken away into a care. That was my greatest fear, meaning like they were threatened that if they could speak out, they will be taken away into a certain care. That was the greatest fear of Steve, because it seems really unknown and I didn't know what it really meant. I learned to keep agencies out. They weren't. They weren't. I didn't. Meaning when he talked about agencies, like meaning whoever it may be, or it may be the police, or maybe the teachers, or anyone. He didn't want to keep them in touch because they were not to be trusted. I made sure that I went to school and covered up any problems. I tried to be good at school as much as I could. I think everyone knew about my family's drug problem and no one talked about it. I think it was obvious that to the teachers that we didn't have the right clothes sometimes. We didn't have the right clothes sometimes. We had a lot of cash for kids of our age, and that no one was looking out for us. I felt out of place at school. My brother and I did our own thing, sometimes staying out really late whenever we wanted to. I would fall asleep at school sometimes after staying up late. Looking back, it was really unsafe. Anything could have happened to us. As I continue, things reached to a real crisis point when I was about 11 years old. Mom was sent to prison, and when she came out a couple of years later, I went back to live with her again. Things were okay with my mom for about 6 months. Then it got much worse because mom would smoke heroin, meaning drugs, in front of me after doing it in front of me in a couple of times. It was like she thought it was okay and normal. That felt really horrible. Sometimes I would find her passed out. You can imagine a child seeing a mother passed out. When I couldn't wake her up, I thought she was dead, and it was really scary. I ran away once, and I just didn't know what to do. But by this age, I had started to think what was happening at home really wasn't right, and that other children didn't live like this. Luckily for me, I had other family for good with my aunt. She made me healthy meals, made sure I washed and went to bed on time. I really liked it there and felt really cared for. Looking back, I think if the school or social service had recognized the situation and our family had got help earlier, maybe it might have been better for me. I came to the child line at part of it when I was 13 years old. I joined a group for children of parents with substance abuse problems, and it really changed my life. Most importantly, I met other young people who had been through similar experiences, and I wasn't alone. It helped me make me most of my life, and I stayed at school and did well. As I got older, I helped many of the younger children in the group who had the similar problems. This is the end of my story. All right, are you with me, my brother? Brother?
Yes, I'm with
Hello?
you. I'm with you.
Yes, that was Steve's story. I think it was almost summarizing some of the questions that you wanted me to answer, but to continue giving more advice, because I think we encounter different situations. Some of the situations need different, I can say, different departments to seek help. Firstly, before you can seek help, I think as an individual, you know what you need to do. Just make a list of the things you want to change, because there are some of the things, as much as Sislondega said, like times are changing, and parents used to say during our times this and this. But as the current youth, we need to make a list of things that we need to change. We need to list them down first before you can say, I don't want to do this, I want to do this. List them down. Right next to each behavior, the way you would like it to be, I can say how you need it to be dealt with, or how we need to be like parents. Remember, we haven't approached the parents yet or anyone, but just write your possible solution for that matter. Okay, if mom, if you say to me, I need to do this, how about we do this in this way? But meaning you write those possible solutions for those behaviors. Again, prioritize the list if you want, and then choosing a behavior to start with. Then again, practice your desired behavior in a place of the one you want to change. So meaning at this one, meaning it means that before you approach, you need to be ready. Don't just approach, because sometimes when you are not ready or you don't have a backup or the reasoning backup of what you want to say to your parents, sometimes parents can even shut you down. That is why I say sometimes they can even criticize whatever you say. Meaning our parents sometimes, I think they even sometimes lack trust on us, believing that maybe because they used to say in youth of today, they think they know too much. And it's not that we know too much. It's because we are exposed to so many things that we can even research more or engage with other partners, unlike them when they used to be in a limited space. For us, we can explore in different spaces where we can even get help. And for example, when you are still young at school, when you were taught to, I think even at preschool, kids used to teach them just recall 10,111, those childline numbers, those kind of numbers. But when you get older, you get to realize that, those numbers, they were the emergency numbers that I needed to know them by heart, so that whenever I need help, I can quickly call. And normally those, I think most of those numbers, they are toll-free numbers, so that even if you cannot be able to talk to your parents, there's somewhere where you can get help. Meaning there are some childline numbers that you need to call if you are a child. Currently, I think we as the youth of today, we know the channels on how to go. Remember, when you go to our health facilities, and even I think there are more youth development centers where you have to share your own experiences and even report some cases where they can even engage with the health professionals. In my profession, I'm an educator. I'm also dealing with learners with problems at schools. I'm coordinating the school-based support team. Currently, with our country, I'm not sure with the other provinces, but with the Gauteng province, they are more fortunate because when we identify those learners that have problems and screen them and also support them, we can also refer them to the district official, where they can also assist us with the psychologist or the social workers or even the therapist. So, and currently there's an initiative program that they have launched this year in 2021, where in each school they did send a learner support agent, meaning with the current situation, most learners do not have academical problems. They have social and behavioral problems. So it's hard to learn when you are more stressful or more emotionally affected. So those learner agent support that are being allocated to some schools, they're the ones that are assigned to engage one-on-one with those learners at school, so that the learners can express their feelings on how they feel, what is the main cause. Because remember, to us as educators, sometimes learners do not trust us. They will say, I'm going to tell Ma'am Masamo that the whole staff will be knowing about my problems or anything. So it turns that learners also do not trust teachers. So, but with that learner agent support teacher being there, it's easier for the learner to go in a private conversation, so that they can be able to say whatever they need. Because I think recently when she normally reports to me, she said, I don't think most of these learners have academical problems. They have social problems. It comes back from home. I'm not sure if I'm going too far, my brother, because I have so many information. If I can pause, because I have this other scenario that can also give more detail on this one. But I think for now, can I just pause so that we can allow more questions before we go much further?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Austarelo, for your detailed answer. In terms of how do I speak up or speak out to my parents with regards to this, and what other avenues can I consider should the conversation not go so well? And I actually want to ask you a further question, which I would also love Usus Londega to respond to as soon as you are done. This particular question comes from a comment from one of our viewers on Facebook that says, I'm going to translate the comment because it's written in isiXhosa. It says, we are parents and we sin by what we think, what we say, and what we do. And the viewer is actually apologizing on behalf of the parents, saying that they didn't know. So my question to the both of you is based on that. Do you think sometimes parents are totally oblivious of the fact that they are toxic, or do you think it is mostly driven by ignorance and not being cognizant of the child's feeling or how the child feels when they do something? Because I am one person who believes that my body language will tell you exactly how I feel. But also taking into account that the fact that there are some other people who don't show their emotions using their body language, but my body language will tell you exactly how I feel. If my mom says to me, for example, you will amount to nothing and you will not become anything, and all of those different kinds of things, my facial expressions will change. I will feel some type of way. It is normal for someone to feel some type of way, and therefore project that to their facial expressions as well as their body language. So do you think that they are always, I want to say majority of the time, do you think that they are totally oblivious, they don't know? Or is it just because they're just ignorant and they just are not cognizant of what's going on with the child?
Okay, there are two-way routes about that one, because I can say some parents are ignorant according to my experience. Some is because it's not about ignorance. There's this thing called the value of time. When I was talking about negligence, it's about like some parents they're still living in the past, and they feel like they haven't had a chance to sit down, meaning give themselves time to know their kids. Let me say, for an example, let's take this parent let's say the parent is always away from home, like the parent is working, let's say it's a mom, working far from home. The learners are being taken care by the caregiver or the other guardian. So, with the kids, kids develop in different stages. And when they develop during that time, when you don't observe them, you hardly get to know their personality or their characteristics or their role, their characters. Meaning the caregiver will get to know your own child more than you as a mom does. Because normally the only bond that you normally have with your own child is only when there's a financial need. And remember, you are away. You only come at a certain stage. Then you don't get used to know your child. And sometimes, even if we are home, you only come home, let's say, for a weekend. And that only time is when you only just, okay, take this, you just give away some stuff without even sitting down to get to know your child. So that thing develops anger to kids, where they feel like they are longing for that love. You are there, but not there for, you are there as like, I can say it's like you are like a picture in them. You know, my brother, the words, because that's why I say the words can stay forever, unlike the things that you give. For example, if you had to get to make, maybe one day share a certain topic or feelings about yourself with your mom or your dad, that day will be part of your memory life. But if they did buy you maybe one day a bicycle or something, when you are 21, you'll have forgotten about that date or anything. But if something was said to you, whether it was good or bad, especially the harmful ways, like saying to you, you will never be anything in life. Those words will stay with you forever. And they're the ones that are going to push you to say, I'm going to prove my parents wrong, that I'm going to make it, whether even if they say I'm not going to make it. But remember, those words are more harmful. They will stay with you for the rest of it. You can even know the date and still remember that date. But what they get, when they once gave you a certain amount of money, you will even certainly forget, because that is not precious. So the value of time is more important. Maybe I can give maybe parents to answer on that one. To that parents, I think the other advice to give to those parents, they need to value the importance of time, the time they spend with their kids. For an example, where I'm working in a city where every day I'm stuck in a traffic. I have to take kids from home to school, and afternoon I have to take them from school to home. So normally, remember, when we as parents get to that stage, we feel like, oh, I need to get home quickly and do this, make sure that we prepare for tomorrow. But I use that traffic, when I'm stuck in traffic, it is the moment that I get to bond with the kids. Like some parents, when they fetch kids at school, for example, you'll find that they're in a hurry. They'll say, hey, I'll be stuck in traffic. Like, you don't appreciate the moment that you're going to spend with your child. Meaning, like, immediately when the child gets inside the car, it's like, make sure that you sit down, make sure you don't make everything, those stuff. But to me, it's a different story, because immediately the child come in, when I fetch the child, the first thing when the child gets inside the car will be like, how was your day? No matter I'm in these emotions or I'm tired or whatever, the first thing is, how was your day? So that the child can be able to express all the feel. If it was a bad day, he will tell. If it was a good day, he will tell, or she will tell. Then along the way, when we're stuck in traffic, then when we have some conversation, like we get to bond. When you get home, there'll be no time to talk to each other. I'll be, okay, I have to prepare some food, do your homeworks and everything. So with other parents, it's about ignorance, meaning like the little time they spend with their kids, they don't take it as a precious moment for them. So to close up this value of time, I would like to share a poem about Levy, who indicate the importance of time. If they can hear this properly, from 1 year to a 1 millisecond, I will indicate what is the value, the importance of time. If you want to realize the value of 1 year, ask a student who failed a grade. He will tell you about the importance of a 1 year. To realize the value of 1 month, ask a mother who gave birth to a premature baby. To realize the value of 1 week, ask an editor of a weekly newspaper. That one will tell you what is a 1 week, the value of time. To realize the value of 1 day, ask the person who was born on February 29, where he had to miss other 29 when there's always 28, missing that 29. He will tell you about the value of a month. I mean, a value of 1 day. To realize the value of 1 hour, ask the lovers who are waiting to meet each other. They will tell you about time. To realize the value of 1 minute, as a person who missed a train, to realize the value of 1 second, as a person who just avoided an accident with an inch, to realize the value of 1 millisecond as a person who won a silver medal in an Olympic. Meaning our parents need to value the time that they spend with their kids. It's very important. It's then that they can know and realize what is it that their kids need. Kids express with emotions as much as you said, like the body gesture, the body language. Today, if your kid is angry or your kid is happy, you can even like, okay, I can see today because you got this and this. But if you don't spend time with those kids, it doesn't mean like spending time with them. It's like you have to put all your way. I just gave an example, like I only spend time, maybe I use my traffic, when I'm stuck in traffic, I use that moment to spend time with the kids so that when I get home, if I don't have time to sit down with them, but I've already spent time with the little that I got, I did spend time. And currently, I think our parents compared to us now, we're two different characters to the current generation, because now we are working with technology and everything. We spend more time on Facebooks, let me just say social media and everything. Like gadgets are taking over the connection in our family. So somehow we need to make sure that we make time for our kids. Giving them those stuff doesn't make us feel like we are good parents. They are destroying our connection and our bond. Thank you, my brother.
Sislondega, thank you, Auscharel.
I think Auscharelo has covered us in most of these things. And just to answer the question, it's true. Some parents are unaware of their toxic behaviors, but I also want to believe that some parents do it on purpose as a way of trying to punish you, as a way of trying to show you ukuthi ngimdala, so I will do what I want and I am your parent. I think also in the Bible we experienced toxic parents when Herod ebe nomcimbi womntwana wakhe, and he asked ukuthi, what do you want me to do for you? And the mother said ukuthi, bring me John's head. They use their power as a parent ukuthi they inflict pain on others. They end up using you as the child to inflict pain on other people. So that's why I'm saying, in some instances, they are aware of what they are doing, but they end up using you as the child to settle their scores. But I think a way forward whenever money is for us to identify how can we heal from toxic parents, because if you're already in that situation, you can heal from it. That's why one thing we always say is that we need to normalize indaba therapy as Black people, as people in general. We need to normalize that. When healing comes from a place of understanding, so you need to understand what has happened in your life. It's a very difficult thing to unlearn amanyama habits. So you have to be able to teach your parents they need to be able to unlearn their toxic patterns and behaviors that you grew up from, so that you can spare even maybe your younger siblings, because maybe it has happened to you and you are the eldest, and there's still that 13-year-old that is still at home. So you must teach them and tell them that they can unlearn these behaviors so that you can overcome that. And also, it's just never too late for the parents now, when they have identified and have been told by their children that they are toxic. It's never too late for them to extricate themselves from the subjectivity of toxic parenting, because it's something that is ongoing. So you need to be able to extract yourself from that, reflect and say, okay, this is what I've done as a parent and I have failed ulondeka. So what do I do now to Iminati, who's 8 years old? What did I do wrong ulondeka that I need to do differently Iminati? So they must identify their weaknesses first and allow the transformation to manifest, itself into their life, because they can only be happy once they've been able to change, not just for the child, but for themselves as well, because it also goes back to saying that maybe some of the toxic parents, it's because they come from an environment of being raised by other toxic parents, Absolutely. So they need to break the cycle of this toxicity that is happening with parenting.
Absolutely, Sis Londeka, and your final comment just ties up with something Nkosingipile Ngubane is saying on Facebook, and he says toxic parenting is historical. Unfortunately, it is still going to be part of our society. In most families, grandmothers and grandfathers play an intermediary role. Hence, they see themselves in their children. Before we finalize, I also have another comment from a viewer that I want any of you to actually comment on. It's from Simon, and he says, financial abuse is also another form of toxic parenting. I understand we are forced in some instances to give some form of finance to our parents, but it does not have to be demanded. It should not be a norm for them to demand money on their children, as it hinders their personal development. This can turn to children becoming toxic when it comes to making financial decisions, especially when they grow up. And I think that particular conversation dives deep onto the issue of what we like to refer to as black tax. The fact that you need to give your parents some form of financing once you start working, and sometimes it gets so hectic that I saw a tweet some other day of someone who bought themselves a car, and the parent actually said, "But how can you buy yourself a car when you don't even have a home? You didn't even build a home for yourself." And I was taken back, and I was like, "But is that not their money that they worked so hard for, that now that I am actually giving myself or rewarding myself for my hard work, somebody has to tell me that I don't have a home. I didn't build my home. I didn't extend the house." So any comment on that?
Yes, I think with the last points that you raised, I'm just happy that people are able to, the topic has provoked them to look into what is happening within themselves and within their families. Socioeconomic challenges is one of the elements which has affected us, as abantwana. We suffer from black tax because we must be held liable, or we feel indebted to our parents for raising us. I know maybe what I'm going to say is not going to be a popular opinion, but if you bring someone into the world, it is your responsibility to raise that person. So this thing of black tax and having to give, that is also, money is the root of all evil, to be honest, because it also leads to the thing whereby you can't now live your own life because you have to give back. But you shouldn't be giving back to your parent. You must give because you want to, not because you are forced to do so. Yeah.
Charlotte, do you have any comments?
Yes. Also on that one, with the one for black test, I think this one came. If we can go back a little bit, Usislondi also talked about the controlling behavior. Some parents, even if you tend to be an adult, they still feel like they're in control of you. I think this one of black text and also sometimes mostly affect our brothers, brother man. You may find that you are already married, you have a wife, but you have this toxic mother or maybe parents. They still want you to still take care of them, and they'll come with the manipulative ways when you don't do them. And I know with us, I know some of the scriptures or some of the saying, yes, we need to also give back to our parents, but in a way that you are not, it's like you are not committed to do so, but you are doing that as an offering to your parents and with love, because sometimes you may find that they end up even hating, maybe, for example, your wife or your family for not you paying those black tax. But sometimes you need to raise out your voice. You are an independent, you are an adult at that point. So they need to have boundaries. There must be some limitations, because that is why sometimes they will say you'll end up let me put it in a simple way. You'll end up cutting ties with your families or other family members because of those toxic relationships, being alone where you are, not because you don't love them, just because you want your own space, you want to be free, because the more you are more closer to them, it's like they are harming you more and more. And that will cause harm to your own children, where you have to keep on, like, you're going to take out that anger to your own kids instead of them, because they themselves, they are benefiting, but they do not support. We need support, my brother. At this stage, the family can also support, but some of the families at this stage, they don't support. They only support you when you have money. That is why you may find that in certain families, like, they can make it jokingly, like, the only people that are being recognized around the families are those that have money. Meaning, like, if you don't have money, or you're not working around the family, if there's some family meetings or some family gatherings, your words are not taken into consideration, because you are not. They don't value your opinions or your points. They only value your money. Meaning, somehow you see, and it also happens against into our churches. I'm sorry to say about this one. We tend to choose leaders according to their profiles, not looking at what they can bring into the church. For example, let's say we want to choose Amagosa, esontweni. We may say, okay, oh mom, bani akanayo imoto, and angeke aye kuma-meetings, kuma-quarterly meetings or whatever, she's not working, but not looking that she's always available. Then sikhetha uBrad Pitt, because uBrad Pitt he's working, unayo imoto, he can go everywhere, unale lichelete, and she can, and wherever we need him or her, she can come. But if you check, we lose that part where those people keep on making excuses. Oh, I'm in a meeting, I'm at work, let's reschedule our meeting or anything. But you find that those people that are being neglected, being our parents or maybe our youth, they're always available. They were supposed to use those ones who don't. So meaning, like, finance can also be toxic, meaning can even bring, make people think if you have finance, you have a good profile and you can give good opinions, not knowing that they are neglecting other people aside. All right. Thank you, my brother.
Definitely, Australia, and I thank you so much for that comment. Before we are in actual fact heading to a close, I would like to ask if any of you, Sister Londeka, do you have any closing remarks or closing statements that you'd like to make?
No, thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak, and we hope that maybe one or two people learned something and it will help them going forward.
100%. Austara, do you have any closing remarks or anything like that?
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you. It's only few things, or even few, only two coachings that I have. I know we may have not gone too far to a state where people, because I think such topics maybe need an engagement in an open space where people can raise comments, we discuss as an exchange of question and answer. But at this point, I think so far, if I would like to say, if to those who we did trigger with their emotions, we like to say sorry. And if they need help, let them find healing, and we will pray that this thing in the future coming generation, let it change. Let us not stay in the past. We are the new parents facing a new generation. Let's erase that sad generation, and we cannot be happy at the same time, but little by bit, like in a quoting, it will say by Bill Ayer says, your children need to be loved for who they are, the majority of the time, not spend the entire time trying to correct them. Let us not try to keep on correcting them, but let us love them. For example, I can compare the old parents and the current parents, like say, like the child, if I had to break a cup or a glass at home, you can imagine the anger from my parents, like when the parent will say, why did you break that glass? And it will be something like for the whole day, like you have made a mistake. But let us be those parents that when something breaks down, like that glass did break down, don't go there with anger. Just say, I understand it's a mistake. This is just a glass. We'll just replace it. Unlike saying those harmful words that will stay forever. Let's avoid saying things that will stay forever, while we can just calm the situation where we can even replace other stuff. You cannot replace a person's life. You can replace whatever it is, a material stuff. So let us go there and love our kids, no matter who they are. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are very young, or instead, just set an example for the believers through that you can do it, whether you are good or bad, or they keep the critic. Let it stop. Let parents stop criticizing. We are different kids in a family, or different people, and some of us or some of other people did not grow in a family where it is a good functional family. So it was dysfunctional because there were, sometimes there's still those co-toxic, co-parenting that are very, your mom may be good, but the other parent may be toxic because they do bad mouth the other parents. If we are co-parenting, especially in our current youth, most of the divorce rate is much higher. So if we are co-parenting, please, if you are another parent, don't badmouth the other parent in order to score points so that the kids can love you more. Please do your part and avoid making kids a fighting or a victim in between you as fight or make a child a conflict in between. So in those few words, my brother, I would like to say the most important thing is that everybody has time. Everybody's alive today has time. And whether you are rich or poor, male or female, or young or old, we are all given same time to live. If it is 24 hours, we are all given that 24 hours, and we need to appreciate that time, because time is very important. So my last word is to say, let us not waste and spend time, but let us invest time in our memories. Thank you, my brother.
Thank you, Austarelo. And it is needless to say, and also to also state to our viewers that I hope they took up all the points that the both of you have made for the duration of this conversation. And at most, they know that it is very important for parents, specifically because people who are on this platform are likely parents as well. So it is very important for them to be cognizant of the things that they say and be cognizant of the things that they do, and for those things might actually be toxic to the child, or something that makes the child uneasy or uncomfortable. So it is very important to look at the things that we do. For those things that we do, we don't know how the other person actually receives them. Sometimes we do them in total oblivion. But be very careful and be very cautious of the things you say, the things you do. It is even said that sometimes the things we say with our mouths, saying to somebody that they will amount to nothing, would eventually come to reality, because you have said it, and I don't know what the saying says, that what you say actually comes into life. So you must be very careful in terms of the things that we say and the things that we do. All right. I just want to extend a word of gratitude to the both of you, Sis Londeka, as Tshwarelo, for taking out some time and coming to this platform to address such a sensitive topic. And thank you for addressing this sensitive topic with such respect and the decency that you guys handled this particular topic, because it could actually go sideways, but you managed to hold the topic as sensitive as it is and run with the conversation. And for that, we are forever grateful. We are forever grateful for your time. It is late in the evening. You could have got on with other things that you needed to do, but you decided to take your time and come onto this platform and engage with us on this particular conversation. And for that, on behalf of Wesley Guild SA, we can never thank you enough. Thank you, thank you, and thank you. May God bless your souls and bless your hearts at all times, and may He keep you, and may you continue to teach in the respective spaces that you are in. I'd also like to thank the viewers who are now also, or the listeners rather, on the Zoom platform, who are listening to this conversation and who are actively the backbone and the support system in this particular conversation. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being there as well. I've been noting the comments that are coming through from the chat function, and we appreciate your support in these kind of conversations and supporting the people who are presenting the particular topic. Thank you, and thank you. To my ever so fabulous, my spectacular, my fantastic viewers on Facebook who are watching this conversation live, Wesley Guild SA is nothing without you guys. These conversations would actually be in vain and would be futile if there was no one who would actually like or who watched these conversations. Thank you to those of you who are also now watching on YouTube and watching the conversation from there. We also thank you so much and appreciate your time and appreciate your data, because you use your data in watching these conversations. So we thank you so much. I want to reiterate the fact that Wesley Guild SA would be nothing at all without you guys. From my side, that is it. Good night. God bless. Have a wonderful evening until next time. And before we close, I'd like to ask Usisla Londeka to close for us in prayer.
Baba esezulwini, isenkosi yethu Jesu Kristu, siyabonga uNkulunkulu onamandla ngomusa wakho. Siyabonga uNkulunkulu onamandla ukuthi usimemile uNkulunkulu kule ndawo. Engasikho Nkosi ekwazi nokuhlakanipha kwethu, kodwa Nkosi kuwumusa nothando lwakho uNkulunkulu onamandla amakhulu. Siyabonga mesiyolungileyo ukuthi usiphe Nkosi ukuhlakani lokuthi sikwazi ukuthi sihlale kule ndawo Nkosi and discuss such sensitive topics musingcwele. Siyazi ukuthi Nkosi bakhona abantwana abachukumisekile Nkosi during this time mesiyolungileyo. May you send healing to them, nkulunkulu namandla amakhulu. We pray, God, for everyone, God, that is affected, nkulunkulu namandla, ngale nto nkulunkulu esibhekane nayo, Messi yolungileyo. Siyazi ukuthi wena Nkosi ungu-take over-yo, Messi yolungileyo. Uma sikucela, Messi yolungileyo, uyasenzela, nkulunkulu namandla. Abantwana bakho, Nkosi, laba mongcwele, uyazazi, Nkosi, izimo ababhekene nazo emakhaya, nkulunkulu namandla. Abanye, Nkosi, abanawo, Nkosi, amandla okuthi, Nkosi, bekhulume nabazali, kodwa, Nkosi, simema wena Moya Oyingcwele ukuthi ungenelele, Nkosi, kulezo iy'ndawo, nkulunkulu namandla. Faka, Nkosi, umoya wakho oyingcwele ukuze, Nkosi, kube nokuthula, Nkosi, emakhayeni abo. Siyabonga, uNkulunkulu wethu, ngothando lwakho, uNkulunkulu olumile njalo, uNkulunkulu namandla amakhulu. Sithi-ke, Nkosi, uma sesiyolala, Nkosi, sicele wena ukuthi usigcine usilondoloze ngabanye ngabanye, ngoKristu Jesu Inkosi yethu manje naphakade. Amen.
Amen. Good night. Until next time.